Good day everyone and welcome to Philippine Literature Module 2. So yun nga, no? So we are officially done in identifying the elements of poetry. We are officially done in classification and the general types of literature. So tapos na tayo doon, hindi na tayo magdadissect ng poem. So happy na ang lahat. At anyway, on your Module 2, kwentuhan na lamang tayo. Yun nga lang, medyo may kaunting sauluhan tayo sa ating kwentuhan. But on your Module 2 class, just like what I've told you, magkukwentuhan na lang tayo and we're going to talk about the history, no? The history of the Philippine literature o yung mga nangyari noong nakaraan sa ating literatura, no, dito sa Pilipinas. And as a starter, we are going to talk about the pre-colonial times or the pre-colonial period of the Philippine literature. Pre-colonial times. So before we go on class, friendly reminder lang, kindly get some paper and pencil or pen because I might say some information na wala dyan sa inyong mga modules na pwede ko rin namang isama sa inyong major exams. Ano? Kasi class, here, on your Module 2, we're going to talk about the history of the Philippine literature. At hindi natin maiwasan na masagasaan natin yung ilang mga literary works ng ating mga ninuno at ang ating mga bayani. So, medyo marami-rami yun. At hindi ko naman kayang isulat lahat sa modules ninyo yung mga information na yun. So, might as well get a paper and a pen or a pencil for jotting or simply for your notes. Alright, going back class, pre-colonial period. When we talk about pre-colonial periods, well, from the word itself, pre, meaning to say before, and colonial times, meaning to say the times when we are colonized. So pre-colonial period means before the colonization come. So that is the time before any colonizer came here in the Philippines and beat the hell out of us. Parang ganun lang yun, bago dumating ang mga dayuhan dito sa Pilipinas. At going back class, kwentuhan tayo during pre-colonial period. Ang paniniwala kasi class ng mga tao noon ang mga Filipino ay parang mga mangma, walang alam, syungaers kumbaga, no? Kumbaga we are primitive creatures or human species na ang alam lang ay hunting, at hindi tayo marunong mag-farm, ganun ang tingin. Kasi class, kaya ganun ang tingin sa atin because we Filipinos do not actually write our own history in a piece of paper. Nagkaroon lang tayo ng written article about our history during the Spaniards' colonization here in the Philippines during 1521, I believe. So, start lang nung taong na yon, tsaka lang tayo nagkaroon ng papel at ballpen dito para isulat yung history natin. At hindi pa nga tayo nagsulat ng ating history. But we're not going to talk about Spanish period yet, no? We are going to deal what happened before the colonization time, before the Spaniards set their foot on our islands, We're going to talk about that. So, well, because of the recent findings in the scientific findings class, napag-alaman natin na hindi pala tayo susyunga-syunga, ng kahit wala pa yung mga Espanyol, hindi pa tayo susyunga-syunga noon. There are evidences na nakita na ang mga Filipinos pala ay may sarili ng kultura noon, may sarili na tayong way of living and beliefs wherein we can also express ourselves through oral literature. And that is 50,000 years ago pa ay meron na tayong sarili nating literatura. At ang literatura nating class noon ay hindi written, kundi oral literature. Ngayon magkakaroon tayo ng conflict kasi ang definition natin ng literature way back then is anything that is written, that is put into a beautiful manner is literature na. Hindi pala ganun lang yon. Pag sinabi natin ding daw class na literature, well, words ito, na i-express natin. So hindi porket hindi siya naisulat, hindi na natin siya may considered na literature. Malalaman nyo yan later on. Alright, so oral literature class. Pag sinabi natin oral literature, ang ating literatura noong unang panahon or during pre-colonial times, hindi siya sinusulat, hindi siya hindi siya tinitik-tik lang sa kung saan-saan, kundi orally. Pag sinabi nating orally class, salita lang. Ano? Kumbaga chismis o kaya hindi naman chismis, kundi the way ng pagpasa ng ating literatura ay through speaking only, without written work or without written results. No? And that is oral literature during pre-colonial period. And one of the oral literature class na napag-alaman natin, examples of oral literature, ay itong tinatawag nating maxims, proverbs, and epigrams, etc. So, pag sinabi natin class maxims, proverbs, or epigrams, ito yung sayings, kumbaga. Kung sa Tagalog ay mga salawikain at saka mga sawikain. A very good example of proverbs or the maxims ay birds of the same feather flocks together. Parang gano'n. O kaya ay opposite attracts. Pwede rin absence makes the heart grow fonder. Parang ganyan. So yun yung mga kasabihan noong unang panahon. So yun yung meron na tayo noon dito sa Pilipinas bago pa dumating yung mga Espanyol. And all of these things, class, are actually different from one another. However, it is really hard to identify what's the difference between this kind of sayings. Mahirapan kayo. Well, nabanggit ko lang naman as part of Philippine literature, pag-aaralan natin you're not English majors, so hindi na tayo magpapalalim pa doon. Nabanggit ko lang na may ganung klase na tayong oral literature during pre-colonial period. And meron din tayong class na allegorical stanzas. Pag sinabi natin class na allegorical stanzas, these are very, very short poems. Well, hindi naman siya kasing ikli nung tinatawag nating haiku ng mga Hapon. Yung allegorical stanza class ay a short poem dito sa Pilipinas na nalaman din na meron tayo nito. Pag sinabi nating class na allegorical stanza, well, short poems and rich in similes and metaphors. So take note of that. So, rich in similes and metaphors. Pag sinabi natin class similes and metaphors, ito yung mga malalalim na salita, matalinagang salita, na hindi naman binibigay yung direct meaning na, kumbaga may iba pang meaning behind that particular word, metaphorical, ganon. O in Tagalog class, ang tawag natin dito sa allegorical stanza ay tanaga. Ito ay mga tanaga. Give you an example of tanaga. Let me read you an example of it. Entitled, Kaibigan. Ang katoto kapag tunay, hindi ngiti ang pag-alay, kundi isang katapatan na mataas na pagdamay. Ganon. So yun, that is a one stanza poem called Tanaga, entitled Kaibigan. Another one, Palay. Palay siyang matino ng yumuko, ngunit muling tumayo, nagkabunga ng ginto. So yun, so those are the examples of Tanaga. So yun class, hindi lang doon nagtatapos ang ating oral literature na nalaman natin na meron ang Philippines noon during pre-colonial times. Hindi lang nagtatapos doon. Meron din tayong tinatawag class na riddles. Ano ba ibig sabihin ng riddles? Pag sinabi natin riddles class, sa Tagalog ito ay mga bugtong. Well, to take note, riddles is statement or question or phrase having a double or veiled in meaning, put paths as a puzzle to be answered. So, parang ganon. So, well, you can actually search the meaning of riddles using your Merriam dictionaries or whatever. Ganon din naman ang aking ilalagay sa exam. Anyways, class, so yun, so, yung bugtong pala, hindi lang yan simpleng umutlaw lang sa atin dito sa Pilipinas during modern times, but matagal na pala yan na ginagamit, and it is actually famous during those time ang mga riddles, kasi syempre thrilling na nga naman siya, kumbaga mapapaisip ka, hindi ka lang simpleng makikinig at mamamanga, kundi mag-iisip ka talaga at kailangan mo sagutin yung riddle na yon. I'll give you an example of riddle using Tagalog and Bisaya. Here is one in Tagalog. Dalawang batong maitim, malayo ang dinarating. Ayan. Ulitin ko ha. Dalawang batong itim, malayo ang dinarating. So, ang sagot doon ay mata. Yun yung Tagalog. An example for Bisaya. Tigmo, agakoy ugma, rakita magasay. Yeah. Parang, ulit. Tigmo, agakoy ugma, rakita magasay. So, if we're going to translate that in English, riddles made in the night will be answered in the morning light. Yun ang riddle niya. So, pag Bisaya, tigmo, agokoy ugma, rakita magasay. In English, riddles made in the night will be answered during or in the morning light. So, ang sagot doon ay panag-inip. Yeah. So, those are examples of riddles. In class, dahil wala nga tayong mga written literature noon, puro oral, so syempre hindi rin uso noong time na yun yung theater play. Syempre kapag sinabi natin theater play, may script yan, na sinusunod yung mga actors. At dahil wala namang script nung unang panahon, during pre-colonial times, hindi pa naman natin alam yung mga ABCD noon, wala tayong sinusunod doon. Although meron tayong alibata, ay hindi tayo mahilig magsulat during those time. Dahil nga wala tayong script pa noon at saka hindi naman natin alam yung play pa noon, pero meron tayong tinatawag class na meron na tayong prose narrative noon. Yun nga lang sa oral, true oral, And we do actually have performance during those time. Hindi siya simpleng theater play, pero meron tayong mga performance na noon, And we call them mimetic dances. Yung mga mimetic dances kasi class ay tawag dito, parang ini-imitate natin yung mga galaw ng puno o kaya ng mga hayop, mga sayaw na gano'n. So gano'n tayong ang gawin natin noon. So literature kasi together with the song, sinakanta nila tapos sinasayaw natin. So that is performance na sa kanila. And kahit pa hindi uso ang mga theater plays noon, may mga performances tayong nagagawa during those time. And also, orally speaking of oral literature, meron na rin tayong prose noon, prose narrative. However, hindi nga lang siya ulit sinulat, through oral na naman, pero ang usong-usong mga prose narrative noon class ay yung mga myths, yung mga mythologies natin, at saka mga hero tales, mga fables and legends, So nagkukwento na tayo noon pa ng mga kakaibang bagay and fictitious stories or prose nga, in narrating prose stories, parang gano'n, during those time or during pre-colonial period. Alright, to sum it up class, so during pre-colonial periods, meron na pala ang mga Pilipino ng literature. Yun nga lang, hindi siya written literature, but we call those literature as oral literature. Kasi hindi siya sinulat. Ang form ng pagbibigay ng literature nila nun ay through oral or through speaking. And the examples of these oral literatures are maxims, proverbs, epigram, tanaga, riddles, prose narratives or stories like fables, legends, myths, mga superheroes. Meron na tayo yan noon pa. Hindi totoo na hindi porket dumating ang mga Espanyol dito o iba't iba pang mga colonizers natin, kaya lang tayo nagkaroon ng ating sariling o naging naging marunong tayo o nagkaroon tayo ng kaalaman in terms of literature. So hindi lang dahil sa kanila. Meron na tayo noon pang sariling atin. Hindi lang ito na isulat or wala tayong written history because wala naman tayong papel pa during those time. Pero meron tayong literature. Oral literature nga lang. The Spanish period. So, pag sinabi natin Spanish period class, so ito na yung time sa Philippine history natin in terms of Philippine literature na dumating na yung mga mananakop nating mga kapatid mula sa Spanya. Sila Magellan, sila Legazpi, So, yun. So, yun yung time na yun. And it is said, class, na naging mabulaklak o nag-flourish ang ating literature thanks to the Spaniards because they are the ones who bring actually papers here in the Philippines and they are the ones who actually made our literature rich, and sila din na nagturo sa ating mga kapwa Pilipino kung paano magsulat at magbasa. Kasi nga naman class, kahit pa mga Pilipino during pre-colonial period ay may sarili na tayong literatura, we cannot erase the fact that we are divided into islands. At hindi naman magkakasundo lahat ng tribes noon. Kumbaga magkakaaway pa. So magkakaaway pa mga Taga-Luzon siguro noon, Visayas o Mindanao, o kung meron mang pagkakaisa, di ilan-ilan lamang. However, pagdating ng mga Spaniards class, since they are running their crusades under one banner, which is their nation, Spain, so napagkaisa nila ang buong Pilipinas noon, well, except Mindanao, kasi medyo hindi naman lahat sa part ng Mindanao ay nasakop nila. Well, at least most of the Philippine islands are actually brought into one nation, and later on they called it Philippines. So thanks to the Spaniards at napagbuklod nila yung mga islands na yon, and thanks to the Spaniards natuto ilang mga Filipino na magbasa, magsulat, and because of this knowledge class, naging mabulaklak o naging mayaman ang kultura nating mga Pilipino in terms of literature. Nakakainis yung asong yun. So yun, in terms of literature. Now, I have prepared a short presentation or a video presentation to talk about the Spanish periods. And take some notes kasi yung iba doon mga information ay wala doon sa inyong modules na pwede nyo rin namang may considered na pag-aralan. Malay nyo, iladamay ko yun sa aking exam.
And you can't do anything about it, right? Wrong! When the world turns its back on you, you turn your back on them. That's not what I was told. And maybe you need a new lesson. Repeat after me. Hakuna Matata. Hakuna Matata. It means no worries. It means no worries.
Looking at the exchange rates given, dalawa yan. Ang given natin ay 30,500 pesos GBP USD. At yung tayo exchange rate, meron na tayo direct exchange rate. Okay? So, ano ang gagawin natin dito? Multiply natin sa substitution natin. Yan. 30,500 times 0.72.
Alright, so that's the short video or presentation that I downloaded from YouTube just to summarize the Spanish period. Nakakainis na talaga yung asong yun. At anyways, class, nabanggit din dyan yung literary compositions pero hindi na isama yata yung mga influences on the Philippine literature during the Spanish period. However, mababasa nyo naman siya sa inyong modules. Going back, literary compositions class, hindi yan masyadong naipaliwanag sa video, pero gusto ko lang sabihin sa inyo class na hindi talaga yan actually yung libro, kundi it is more on textbooks, dictionaries, and grammar books lang yan mga yan. Halimbawa, yung Arte y Regla de la Lengua, ang ibig sabihin yan ay grammar book, Arts of Grammar in Tagalog. Tapos, yung Compendia de la Lengua class, Comprehension of the Language Tagalog, ang ibig sabihin yan. So, grammar book na naman yan. Yung Vocabulario class de la Lengua Tagalia, Vocabulario de la Lengua Pampanga, and Vocabulario de la Lengua Bisaya, mga dictionary books yan in terms of Tagalog, Spanish to Tagalog, Spanish to Pampanga, and Spanish to Bisaya. So parang, or the other way around. Tapos andyan na naman yung Arte de la Lengua Ilocana. Siyempre, grammar book na naman yan for Ilocano, and grammar book for Bicolana as well. So yun yun. Now going back class, hindi rin dyan nabanggit yung mga folk songs natin. So during Spanish period class, nag-flourish ang ating literature in terms of the songs as well. Lalong-lalo na yung ating mga folk songs. Pag sinabi natin folk songs class, ay ito yung mga katutubong mga kantahin natin, tsaka yung mga sinaunang kantahin natin. Dahil nga ang Philippines class ay more on agriculture, so mapapansin ninyo, halos lahat ng ating mga folk songs ay may kinalaman sa harvesting, something like that, at saka buhay ng simpleng mga mamamayang magsasaka. Katulad nung Leron-Leron Sinta, alam nyo naman kantahin yan, hindi ko na kailangan sigurong kantahin pa yan dyan. Yung Pamulinawin, well, you can actually search that on YouTube if you are so curious about it. And Dandansoy sa Bisaya. Meron din tayo tinatawag na Sarong Banggi, alam nyo yan, Sarong Banggi sa gidaan, something like that. Tsaka Ate Ko Pong Sing-Sing, kung napapakinggan nyo na yan, o kung hindi pa, well, malas ninyo, well, you can actually search that on YouTube para malaman nyo, mapakinggan nyo kung ano yung mga yan ba. And of course, we do have our recreational plays, like Tibag, Lagaylay, Sinakulo, Panuluyan, the Salubong, Carillo, and the Zarzuela, and the Sainete. Meron akong isasend sa inyo na short videos, examples, after this video discussion para makita nyo kung ano yung mga recreational plays na yan. To give you an example kung ano ba talaga yan. Well, for the explanation, you can read your modules class, katulad yung Tibag, which means actually maghukay ka o magtibag ka. Makikita nyo yan o malalaman nyo sa videos nyo kung bakit tibag ang tawag dyan. Yung Lagaylay at Tibag, magkasama yan actually. Sineselebrate nga lang sa magkaibang lugar o may specific lang na lugar, yung Lagaylay. Pero yung Tibag, parang ganun din siya sa Lagaylay. Sige na nga, sabihin ko na nga. So parang kino-commemorate lang nila yung pagkahanap ni Saint Helen do sa krus ni Jesus. Pagdating sa Lagaylay, ganun din yung kino-commemorate din nila yung pagkahanap ni Saint Helen sa krus ni Jesus. Yun nga lang, may specific siyang lugar. At yun ay doon sa Kabikulan o sa Kabikulan, yun, sa Bicol, Sorsogon. So doon lagi mayroong Lagaylay. Tsaka itong mga sinakulo, alam nyo naman to, dramatic performance to commemorate the passion and the death of Jesus Christ. Yung pagkamatay, tuwing Pasko or before Christmas, lagi tayo merong sinakulong nagaganap sa simbahan o sa parke. Where dinadramatize nila yung passion and death of Jesus Christ. Panuluyan, presented before 12 on Christmas Eve. This is the presentation of Church of Virgin Mary and Joseph, kung saan sila pwedeng tumuloy para iluwal si Jesucristo. So yun yun. Salubong is an Easter play that dramatized the meeting of the risen Christ, and his mother. It is still presented in many Filipino towns. So yun, napakinggan nyo naman. Carillo, this is a form of dramatic entertainment performed in a moonless night during town fiesta on a dark night after the harvest. So, kung makakita ko ng video niyan, papakita ko sa inyo yung class. kung ano examples ng Carillo. Zarzuela, yeah. One of the famous play during Spanish period is Zarzuela, especially in Filipinos, no? Kasi considered as the father of drama here in the Philippines. It is musical comedy, melodrama in 3 acts which deal with a man's passion and emotions like love, hate, revenge, cruelty, advance, or some social and political problems. So in short class, dramatical play siya, musical. Well, tuwan-tuwa ang mga tao dito during those time kasi, alam mo yun, it's a full showcase of how Filipinos live during this time. During that time, especially, medyo meron din siyang political twist na pinapasok. So, yun, yung paano tayo minamaltrato ng mga Espanyol during that time. So, yun, pinapakita rin din yun sa Zarzuela. Tapos, ginagawa na lang nila ng play, minsan katatawanan, minsan seryoso, etc. It's musical. Sainete. This was a short musical comedy popular during the 18th century. No? So, parang ganun din siya sa Zarzuela. Pero, medyo hindi siya katulad ng Zarzuela na nag-focus siya politically, So, may papakita ko rin yan sa inyo sa videos na isi-share ko later on sa ating online class or sa messenger natin. Moro-moro. So, pag sinabi nating class moro-moro, well, it is presented on a special stage. Wow, may special stage. This is performed during town fiestas to certain people and to remind them of their Christian religion. Kasi class, yung Moro-Moro class, this is actually a street play wherein pinapakita na yung paglalaban ng Kristiyano at Muslim, Moro-Moro. So parang just to commemorate na tayo mga Filipinos ay Kristiyano at hindi na tayo Muslim. So parang ganun yun, Moro-Moro. The plot is usually the same, that the Christian princess or the nobleman daughter who is captured by Mohammedans or mga Muslims. May example ako dyan ng Moro-Moro. Karagatan. This is a poetic vehicle of socio-religious nature celebrated during the death of the person. In the contest, more or less formal, ritual is performed based on the legend about a princess who dropped her ring into the middle of the sea and who offered her hand in marriage to anyone who can retrieve it. Well, actually, class, ito ay gawain noon. Parang naglalagay sila ng tubig sa isang baso, tapos maghuhulog ng singsing, tapos kakaukawan silang ganun. Well, simply because, yun nga, pinapakita lang dyan yung, parang kinakommemorate lang din na may isang dalaga na nahulog yung singsing niya sa karagatan. You can read that on your module. Pero yun nga, ginagawa nila nung unang panahon para gawin lang yun. Ay yun, maghulog lang ng singsing sa baso, tapos magkakaukawa na yung mga lalaki. Anyways, duplo. Duplo is replace the karagatan. Pinatanda niya yung karagatan as later on. This is poetic joust in speaking and reasoning. The roles are taken from the Bible and from the proverbs and sayings. It is usually played during wakes for the dead. So kapag may patay, parang gano'n. That's Carillo.
From the windowsill, through the day old tea from the cup, packed up the photo album Matthew had made, memories of a life that's been loved. Took the Garrett Wilson cars and stuffed animals, poured the old ginger beer down the sink. Dad always told me, don't you cry when you're down. But Mom, there's a tear every time that I blink. Oh, I'm in pieces, it's tearing me up. But I know a heart that's broke is a heart that's been loved. So I'll sing hallelujah. You were an angel.
Se me ha retirado la regla.
años tiene usted?
75.
¿A usted se le ha retirado la regla?
So hello class, nandito na ako sa bahay. So ginabi na ako sa pag-video. Anyways class, lesson 3, growth and nationalistic consciousness. So what do we mean by this? Class, pag sinabi natin growth and nationalistic consciousness, well, this is actually the time, or it states the time where Filipinos are enlightened sa kanilang situation or particular situation during their time, no? So ipapaliwanag natin dito class kung ano ba ang nakatulong sa kanila, no? Kung paano sila namulat sa kanilang sitwasyon at paano sila lumaban sa kanilang during colonization time period. At napakalaki ng utang na loob natin sa literature class because literature actually is the tool of our national heroes and other heroes from the past, because literature becomes their weapon to enlighten people, no? Kasi wala pa naman ng TV tsaka radio, no, during Spanish regime. So wala silang ibang choice kung paano nila ma-mass produce ang information regarding the unbalance and injustices of the Spaniards towards Filipino people. Alright, so pag-usapan muna natin class yung letter A sa inyong module, which is the causes of national consciousness. In Tagalog, ano yung nagdulot? So paano sila namulat, no? The Spanish Revolution during 1869. So, during 1869 class, sa Spain, nagkaroon ng revolution doon, ano, to overthrow the Isabella II, or their current queen, Isabella II, during that time. Kasi medyo hindi daw maganda ang pamamalakad ng kanilang queen, Isabella II, during that time. And Filipinos are one of the witness kung paano nakalasap ng tagumpay ang mga Espanyol laban sa kanila mapang-aping leader. So, napaisip ang mga Filipino na, well, teka, pwede naman pala natin gawin yun eh. Bakit hindi natin gawin? So, one of the reason or one of the causes kung bakit lumaban ng mga Filipino is the revolution in Spain during 1869. The opening of the Suez Canal also same year as 1869. So, bakit naging cause ito kung bakit na-enlighten ng mga Filipinos, no, to fight for their rights in their country? Kasi klase na open yung Suez Canal, naging open na rin yung trading sa Philippines through Europe and through Africa as well, ano? So parang nagkaroon ng gateway tayo, mas napabilis yung pagbiyahe. At dahil mas napabilis yung pagbiyahe, napamura ang pamasahe. At dahil napamura ang pamasahe, naging mas open siya sa lahat, no? At naging malaya ang lahat ng mga Filipino to travel around the world. And because of traveling around the world, so it makes Filipino people reach and know and compare their current situation from the rest of the world, no? So dahil dito, nakikita ng mga Filipinos yung kanilang current situation, comparing their current situation among the world or among from the rest of the countries na napupunta nila, napaisip sila, may mali. So those or that is one of the cause kung bakit namulat ang mga Filipino. The opening of Suez Canal. Spread of new ideas. No? Dahil nga na-open yung Suez Canal and we are now open to travel around the world, and Spain also need to flourish or to grow as an economy. So hindi nila pwedeng itago ang Philippines sa pandaigdigang trading, kumbaga. Alam niyo yan, lalo na yung mga custom brokers ko dyan, estudyante. So dahil nga na-open ang Philippines, na ginawa na rin ng Espanya, wala na sila nagawa. So Philippines, when they are open for world trade, hindi na iwasan na nagkaroon ng mga ideas. So nakita nila yung mga ideas, no, na binibigay ng mga Westerners or ng mga tao sa Europe, no. Kasi during that time, talagang the source of knowledge, no, in terms of philosophies, etc., ay, well, generally from Westerners. And because of those specific ideas and ideology na nabukas din sa mga isip ng mga Pilipino, kasabay ng pagbubukas ng pandaigdigang merkado sa kanila, wow, Tagalog, lalim. namulat ang mga Filipino on what should they do. Racial prejudice against the Filipino people. Well, to clear this up, class, during the Spanish period, meron tayong dalawang uri lang ng pare na nagsisilbi. Well, since Spaniards, na pinagmamalaki nila na the reason why they actually get Philippines is for religious purpose. Well, meron dalawang uri ng pare noon, no, na umiikot sa buong Pilipinas. Those are the regular priest and the secular priest. So, paano nagkaroon ng problema at paano namulat ang mga Filipino people during this time? Ano, paano siya naging cause? Kasi class yung mga regular priest, kadalasan ito yung mga Spanyol lang to. Purely Spanish na Spanish priest, no, na nakatalaga bawat parish priest, no, sa bawat bayan. May mga nakatalagang regular priest. And pumasok din ang seculars, wherein ang seculars naman class ay yung mga pari naman na nagta-travel around the world, no? Katulad ng mga Jesuits, SVD, yan, mga secular priest yan. Wherein they are actually accepting different races to enter the priesthood. At ayaw naman itong mangyari ng mga regular priest. Kasi kapag kasi halimbawa sa isang parish, sa isang bayan, sa isang paroko, no, meron isang regular priest. So, syempre yung mga seculars bilang sila, travelers din as priest. No, pumupunta din sila at nadadayo sila sa mga kura paroko at sa mga parish priest. And most of the regular priests do not accept Filipino priest, no, at saka yung mga negros. Kasi mga brown skin daw sila, so hindi sila karapat-dapat na maging pare. So dahil sa mga ganitong sitwasyon, well, Filipino people witness this kind of what do you call this, racist, hindi maganda. Hindi sila natuwa. Diyos ko naman, sabi sa Bible, we are all made from the image of Christ. So bakit bawal ang mga Filipino priest at iba pa mga brown skin or black skin priest? So hindi maganda. So that is the time wherein na-enlighten din ang mga Filipinos. Oh, teka, talagang maling-mali ito. We don't want this kind of situation anymore. So, as the last discussion for letter A class, so yung mga causes ng kung bakit na-enlighten yung mga Filipino, or what we call causes of national consciousness, is the number 5, the martyrdom of Gambursa. So, alam naman natin kung sino yung Gambursa. So, basically, these are the 3 Filipino priests who were executed during the Spanish regime, no? Sa reason ng treason, no? At saka tumutulong daw sila sa revolution, something like that. So, sir, ano naman po mga kinalaman nitong mga ito pagdating sa Philippine literature kung these are actual events? Wala naman diyang sinusulat or wala namang kung ano pa man, no? Well, that gives way, class, to our letter B topic, which is the propaganda movement, no? Wherein the propaganda movement uses these particular events na para isulat, ipamalita, no, ilathala, ipagsasabi ang mga ganitong klase ng pangyayari among the Filipino people, to enlighten the minds and the consciousness of the Filipino people that we are actually on the side or in the losing side of humanity. Hindi maganda ang nangyayari sa ating mga kapwa Filipino. The propaganda movement from 1872 to 1896. So, bakit 1872? Well, this is the time when they started this particular movement. And the people who are included here are Dr. Jose Rizal, Marcelo del Pilar, Graciano Lopez Haina, Antonio Luna, Mariano Ponce, Jose Maria Panganiban, and Pedro Paterno, and more. Habang tumatagal, nadadagdagan sila. Later on, nakasama na rin dyan sila, Andres Bonifacio, on later part. And it ended up until 1896, kung kailan napatay si Dr. Jose Rizal. Hindi pala napatay, pinapatay. So, doon nag-end talaga yung kanilang propaganda movement. So, what are the reasons why propaganda movement why are they doing propagandas, no? Number 1 is to get equal treatment for the Filipinos and Spaniards under the law, Kaya nga sinasabi natin minsan, or other historians that it should not be Jose Rizal ang dapat kinikilalang national hero. It should be Andres Bonifacio, kasi one of the reason nga is this: number one, to get equal treatment for the Filipino and Spaniards. So parang sinasabi, gusto lang nila ng equal na trato, pero hindi naman talaga nila sinasabi na lumayas kayo mga Espanyol. Si Andres Bonifacio kasi, lumayas ka dito, parang ganon. Pagdating kay Jose Rizal, equal treatment lang. Number two, propaganda movement reason is to make the Philippines a colony of Spain. Siyempre, kasi during that time, class, well, hindi tayo simpleng colony lang, we are actually slave country. Wala tayong direktang government na atin lang, Talagang ang pamumuno ay katulad ng sa mga Spanish lang, Sa mga Spaniards lang ang pamumuno. Walang Filipino na namumuno. Unlike during the Japanese and the American time, the American period, wherein kahit papaano nag-set sila ng Philippine government, Kahit mga puppet sila. At least, we are standing alone, or we have our own identity as Filipino people, as one country. But during the Spaniards, or during the Spanish regime class, hindi tayo isang simpleng colony, or we are not as one country. We are only slave country. So one of the reason why propaganda movement is pushing such enlightenment to the Filipino people, for the Filipino people to fight and to be treated as equal and to be a colony of Spain. Number three is to restore Filipino representation in the Spanish courts. Well, napagtagumpayan naman natin ito, restore Filipino representation in Spanish courts, especially during the time of sino nga ito? Napoleon Bonaparte. So, nung time na yun, parang dinimand ni Napoleon Bonaparte sa Spanish government na, hoy, dapat may representative ang mga Filipino sa inyo, sa ating court dito. Although, well, kung hindi pa nasakop ang Spain ni Napoleon Bonaparte during that time, hindi pa tayo magkakaroon ng sarili nating representative sa Spanish court. However, pagkawala ni Napoleon Bonaparte, pagkapatay niya, balik ulit tayo sa dati. The Philippinize to parishes, So, parang kailangan magkaroon din naman ng mga Filipinong pare. Na-push naman natin ito in later part. The number 5 is to give the Filipino freedom of speech, of the press, assembly, and for redress of grievances. Well, kasi nga, class, dati yung mga zarzuela, bawal na bawal talaga yan. So yun nga kasi, class, nung time ng Spanish regime, bawal na bawal talaga yung mga sainete, yung mga zarzuela na yun. Kasi most of the plays, kahit pa musical yan or not, may political approach, And they're actually targeting the Spanish regime during that time. So pinagbabawal talaga. Pero pinupush pa rin ng mga Filipino people na sana magkaroon sila ng sarili nilang freedom of expression, They want to have their own newspaper. Pwede silang maglathala, Kasi during that time, because uso na rin yung mga revolution, mga mini revolts in different provinces in the Philippines, yung pagsulat ng simpleng mga leaflets, it's prohibited during that time. Well, the first move of the Filipino people is to have the propaganda movement. However, it fails. That leads to our next topic, which is the active revolution from 1896 to 1898. Nung namatay din si Dr. Jose Rizal, yun na, pumutok na ang revolutionaryong Pilipino against the Spanish regime. And one of the people or the members pala ng revolution ito na tinatag nila yung La Liga Filipina, they are Andres Bonifacio, Emilio Jacinto, Apolinario Mabini, Jose Palma, Pio Valenzuela. Well, they decided to take the fights. Parang armed struggle na sila, revolutionary na. So they fight. And nag-trigger nito talaga kasi ay yung pagkawala ni Dr. Jose Rizal. Yung pagkakulong sa kanya, tsaka yung pagkamatay din niya. Well, Jose Rizal was well-known propagandist during that time. Kasi nga, he is from an elite family, a dentist, a doctor. So, nag-trigger siya. Siya yung pinakang trigger kung bakit lumaban ang mga Filipino. For lesson 4 class, I will leave that to you for you to read the remaining articles on your modules kasi mas may explain yan through your reading, no? Especially their works of the different heroes na which I will definitely include in my examination, no? So please do read the last part of your module, lesson 4, heroes and their literary works or literature works. Thank you.